Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Techgig webinar series. The topic for today's session is Building Cloud-Based Performance Test Lab and Experiential Workshop. And we have with us today Mr. Rahul Goyal. He is the Senior Manager Global Delivery at Signity Technologies. However, before we start off with today's session, I would also like to quickly introduce Sairam. He's the he's the Associate Vice President Marketing at Signity Technologies, and he would give a quick introduction of Rahul as I hand over the session to him now.
Thanks, Srilagna. Good afternoon to everyone. On behalf of Signity Technologies, I take this opportunity to welcome you all for what seems to be a very intensive, impulsive, and technical webinar. I'm very sure all of you, the cloud computing enthusiasts in you, the performance testing experts in you, would have a very interactive session as we move forward for the next 45 minutes or so. Before I talk a little bit about Rahul, let me also tell you a little bit about Signity. Signity Technologies is the world's third largest independent software testing services company. Globally, we are headquartered at Irving in Texas in the United States, and our global delivery centers are based out of Hyderabad in India. More than 850 plus carrier testers are the fulcrum of Signity today, serving leading global enterprises and independent software vendors. So what we bring to the market space is a very committed vision of ensuring that we actually build a better future by helping our clients say no to bad software through offering superior software testing services. The testing services that we offer actually are distinguished by our IP-led testing services, where the cloud-enabled smart tools IP portfolio that we have been building transcends and accelerates the entire software test life cycle, bringing tangible benefits to our clients. Today, some of the leading customers that we have, we've been serving them in the areas of enterprise mobility, cloud and distributed performance computing, and of course anything and everything around end-to-end software functional test automation. We also bring in a compulsive focus with dedicated investments in world-class test lab infrastructures. We have probably one of the first of its kind robotics test lab in India. We do have a co-branded enterprise mobile lab with HP, where what we do is we offer a stack of mobile devices and platforms that are cloud-enabled, where our clients actually seamlessly use them while we offer end-to-end enterprise mobility testing services. We are also building a cloud-enabled performance test computing lab, and then that actually works across different cloud computing infrastructure vendors and platform as service providers. Our performance testing center of excellence experts have extremely deep experiences in both open source and commercial performance test computing infrastructure. So with that said, with more than 100,000 square foot of offices spread across 3 continents, today Signity is in the forefront of making sure we innovate around software testing landscape. We also are very committed to the society through what we call the Project Significance, where using education as an enabler, we work with the sole objective of impacting 1 million+ lives. So that's a little bit about Signity Technologies. Once again, I thank you for taking time to join this webinar. Let me introduce Rahul Goyal. Rahul heads our performance computing, performance testing practice at Signity, himself being an extreme addict to making sure that loads and performance computing bottlenecks are solved for our leading customers. Rahul holds a computer science graduate engineering degree from the IIT BHU. He's been worked with prima facie companies like Microsoft, Oracle, and Satyam before he joined Signity with the passion that we all bring to the table here. Rahul has spoken at many a place and forum, both on agile test development, performance computing, automated test case scenario generation, and so on and so forth. Today, some of our leading Fortune clients actually work with Rahul's teams, where they make a significant difference to ensure the load characterization and performance computing metrics are of world class while we test their very complex products and enterprise applications. Along with Rahul, I also have Venki, who's our lead/performance test architect, who always spends his time in the labs hard coding, hand coding, and making sure that some of the complex problems that we encounter day to day are solved with utmost precision. So that's the team for you today. We would have around about 30 minutes of a deep dive slide presentation that Rahul would walk you through. Subsequent to that, we'll make sure we have a 20-minute a live demo kind of stuff, which will also make this very interesting, post to which we could break out for questions. With that said, thanks once again. Have a good time. Thank you. Over to you, Rahul.
Thanks, Sairam. And good afternoon, everybody. So in this session, what we are going to talk about is when we should do a performance testing from cloud and how we can do a performance testing from cloud. These are the two topics we are trying to cover. And my expectation is that all of you are having some basic concepts of performance testing, or somewhere some kind of performance testing you have already done in the past. So following is the agenda for this session. I will quickly discuss about some of the key takeaways which you can expect after this session. Then we will dive down to deep dive into the cloud performance testing, when we can do it and what are some of the limitations where you cannot expect to do a cloud performance testing at all. We will discuss about some of the licensing models exist currently and how it will matter to you while you are taking some kind of recommendation or while you are thinking about to take the performance testing from cloud. The next one is we'll go for a demo. It's more for a how factor, like if you want to set up your own performance testing lab in the cloud, how you can do it. We'll give a small demo to showcase a step-by-step instruction how it can be achieved. And the last part is like what kind of challenges so far is some of the challenges we have faced in past and how we have solved it, or means what kind of problems we face. So that is also we will discuss in this session. And at the end, we can have a Q&A session where you can ask, post the questions to the moderator. So nowadays, what we see that cloud is a buzzword, and it seems like each and everything can be taken to the cloud and can be conducted on the cloud. Whether it's a process, whether it's automation testing, performance testing, everything we think that okay, it can be taken to the cloud and it will be helpful. But that is the session we are talking about, that it does not make sense to take everything to the cloud, right? And the question is when we should think about taking performance testing from the cloud. So that is one part we'll discuss. We'll also discuss about how to find it out when it is a cost effectiveness, when it is a cost effective to generate a load from cloud. Because most of the time advertisements, if you see, most of the vendors out there, they say that okay, if you do a performance testing from the cloud, it's a very cost effectiveness. But is this a reality? We need to find it out over here. Especially from the cost effectiveness, when we are talking about, means do we consider whether hardware procurements, do we consider the maintenance of those hardwares, do we consider the electricity being used for setting up, for maintaining those labs, for internet bandwidth. So all these things we should be considering during cost effectiveness of setting up the lab on a cloud. So we'll also talk about in details. And then we'll give a demo to show that okay, how we can set up a lab into the cloud, and then what are some of the typical challenges that we faced while setting up our lab on the cloud. So we'll discuss about these things in detail. So the very first thing is, if I ask a question, can we do a performance testing from cloud for all kind of applications, right? So the thing is, no, miss, we cannot do all types of application. We cannot conduct a performance testing from cloud if that application is not exposed to the internet. So if you see, miss, over here, I have tried to put some different types of application which we work on it. Like there are some client server kind of application, there are intranet, which is only some organization internally use it and they don't expose it to the outside because there are some security risks. There are applications which are only sitting on a desktop, there is no internet connectivity, they require it. Then there are mainframes applications which are being exposed on the terminal basis. and then at the end means we are having a web-based application or even a web-based application with some rich UI application. So let's say if we take these different types of application, can we do a performance testing of these applications from cloud, all of them? So if you see the red mark like client server or desktop or mainframe, it's not recommended to do it from the cloud, because first of all, it's not a technically possibility for most of the time. Even if it is technically possible, it does not make sense to take the burden of setting up the load generation environment on cloud and do the performance testing for them. But yeah, web-based application and rich UI kind of application can be conducted performance testing from cloud. So in this session, we will be talking mostly a context of web-based application, where means we are saying that okay, user interface will be talking to web server, and then web server will talking to application server, and then database, and then the flow will return back from database to application on web server. So the example or the discussion will be mostly around this application as a generic way. So the next question we have is like, let's say the recommended way means if we don't do the performance testing only at the end of the SDLC phase, but we integrate our performance testing from the very beginning of the SDLC phase, like from a unit testing as well. So there we say, hey, progressive performance testing if we are doing it. So which phases of the software development life cycles make sense to conduct a performance testing from cloud? So for example, let's say if we are in the unit testing phase, in this example, let's say we want to do a performance testing of a store procedure, where we want to make sure that how many threads can execute the store procedure, how much time it takes, what kind of concurrency issues we face. If we want to do this kind of testing, does it make sense to conduct a performance testing from cloud? Because technically it is very much possible to execute the store procedure from internet, right? But does it make sense to do this kind of performance testing from cloud? So we have tried to recommending, or we are saying that it should not be done, and then there are many reasons for it. Like first of all, during this unit testing phase, the number of runs required for debugging the performance problems are very large. Means you can expect definitely around 30 to 40 runs per day. It's an average run I'm talking about. So definitely means there are a number of runs required for debugging the performance issues are large enough. The second thing, if the developers are working on these performance issues, they need access to the system under test, faster access to the system under test. So that means even if they want to do some correlation between load generation and system under test, they want to have side by side a thing so that they can correlate it well, they can take the decision faster. If the same thing is being tried from cloud, then going to the cloud, setting up the environment, and try to load generation, do a load generation from there, it will definitely take a lot of time of the developers, which means cost of the application, cost associated with the application. The third one is, if we are using a land-based performance testing, right, we can set up the multiple tools and utilities. For example, in this case, you can consider like SQL profiler, right? We can do a load generation, and we can see what kind of statements or how the SQL is performing, what are the CPU utilizations and other stuff side by side, and can take the decisions very faster, right? Another thing is, nowadays most of the performance testing, if you say, we are moving towards and putting those scenarios with the continuous integration platform like Jenkins, right? If we are taking this unit testing and doing it from the cloud, right, means integrating with the Jenkins or CI kind of platform, it will be very cumbersome. Rather, if we are doing the setup on our lab, right, it is very much possible to do it very easily. So then it does not make sense to do this unit testing from cloud. And the last one is from a security aspect. In this unit testing phase, the application is very unstable, and if exposing this thing to the internet, means it might compromise your LAN network, organization LAN network. It might compromising the functionality aspect, some of the secret things, whatever we are doing. It will be a lot of security risks. So definitely it's a no-no for doing a unit testing from the cloud. Similarly, if you move to the component testing, for example, let's say if you want to do a performance testing, one of the business logic is ready, and we want to do a performance testing of that business logic component on the application server side. Does it make sense to do the performance testing from cloud? Again, if you see, means most of the things are very common to the unit testing phase, like it requires multiple cycles to debug, it needs faster access to the system under test, utilities are required for debugging, then continuous integration also, it will be very hard to set up, and system will be very risky at this point of time to expose to the internet. Let's say if we move to the integration testing, where all these multiple application servers or multiple web servers, load balancer, all are integrated, and we want to see how the integrated system is working in terms of performance, right? What we have observed is what you would have also observed, like in this phase also, most of the configuration related issues we face during this time. And again, it requires multiple runs to debug those problems. The second problem comes is like if we do performance testing from cloud, right? Not only there are some variables, especially in terms of CDN or multiple ISPs, multiple hops also comes into a picture. So if you don't know if the response time is very high, it is because of the integrated system or it is because of the external third-party ISPs or the hops present into the whole overall performance testing. Then internet bandwidth, even means this is also valid for the unit testing and component testing, but that factor is definitely we have not discussed over there, because at that point it was very much visible that doing a performance testing for those phases does not make sense. But for integration testing, let's say if you are doing many runs, right, and we need to be worried about all kind of flows to be executed from the cloud environment, we need to put a cost for the internet bandwidth requirement, right? And then if you are having a LAN, it will be easy to set up, because it will be most of the flows will happen on the 100 Mbps line. But if we need to do all these things from cloud, the company has to arrange the internet bandwidth accordingly. And at the last point, again, at this point also, system is not stable enough. There is a lot of risk is there for exposing the system to the internet. And that's why we are recommending that even in the integration phase, in the integration testing phase, we should have the performance testing lab into the organization LAN rather than taking it on the cloud and do the performance testing. Let's say integration, unit testing is done, component testing is done, integration testing is done, and then we are having a complete system out there which we want to do testing in terms of having a firewall, in terms of having cache proxy server, load balancer, everything. Now does it make sense now to do a performance testing from cloud? So sometime yes, yeah, because now everything is ready. Only variables right now we are having is like multiple routes or multiple hops out there. But even at this point, right, what we have seen that the number of runs required, and we will also discuss why the number of runs are very important for this consideration and how it increase the cost for the load generation. So if we are having multiple runs, definitely high cost is involved. Internet related cost will be there. Then another point is if we are doing a load generation from client, right, most of the load generation tool like LoadRunner or JMeter or NeoLoad, right, we can always do a analysis or correlation between client-side metrics and server-side metrics if they are inside the LAN, if they are on the same LAN. But if they are outside the LAN, it is very hard to do some kind of correlation between client-side and server-side analysis. And at this phase system, when we are doing a system testing, right, if there are some issues are there, still we don't know whether the system is working fine or not fine. If we, after integration, if we directly take it to the internet, we are still having some variables which we cannot be accommodated for, and we will not be having the answer and why the response time or why the throughput is low, basically. And if there are some issues related to system, because still the system is not completely tested, taking it, exposing it to the outside world is hard. But definitely there are some advantages to do a performance testing at this phase from cloud. One thing is infrastructure cost, because when you are talking about system testing, right, and having the same kind of lab, production kind of lab, it requires a lot of hardware, right, and it's very hard to replicate the same thing on the organization until you are doing the run again and again. Again, the licensing cost is very high, because you have to buy for all this number of content users and other stuff, and someone has to maintain those labs, right? So there are some advantages if you are doing the load generation for system testing from cloud. For system testing, that's why we have put it yellow, that it depends on the situation by situation. When should we go for it and when we should not go for it. But at the end, the last page is acceptance testing, where means all the system is also integrated with third-party systems like payment gateway, CDNs, and other stuff. Then at that time, does it make sense to do a performance testing from cloud? So the answer is clearly yes. The reason is because first of all, if you need to find it out, how the things are happening from multiple geographical location, how the application performance is being perceived from different users. Whether we can only do it from cloud, we cannot do it from the LAN, right? And then acceptance testing does not happen on a regular basis. It happens before the release, right? So it definitely makes sense to do the load testing from cloud during acceptance testing phase. Low licensing cost is required because whatever numbers of licenses the users are required and other stuff, whatever hardware cost is required, cloud is very much scalable, and we can always do a load of 40,000 or 60,000 users without paying too much for the infrastructure cost. There are definitely some problems are there, like debugging the issues will be an issue as we have discussed. Then there will be a dependencies of the cloud provider, whatever cloud providers you use it. And the last one is recovery data loss. We'll discuss more challenges later in details about it. There are some definitely problems are there when you use the cloud. And the last one is, let's say if you don't use the cloud, right, what are some alternatives? So if you're having some partnership with the data centers or other stuff, you can use the data centers, and it totally depends on how much cost is involved for setting up the data. So before we move to the demo, we'll quickly talk about the licensing models and costs associated with it so that you can get an idea how it makes sense for or when you should go for the performance testing from cloud. These are few of the representative cloud service providers out there, like LoadRunner is there, Nutanix, BlazeMeter, LoadStorm, BrowserMod. And these are some of the sample cost, these are some of the licensing cost model most of the vendors are having. I will discuss about a simple thing like over here in this slide, if you can say when we are saving 0 to 250 credits, right? Then they are saying that each credit will cost $10 each. So let's say if you're taking a 250 credit, then you are paying around $2,500 for to the vendor, and then they are giving some kind of definitions like one credit. Basically, they are saying that okay, one credit is used when you are using one of the load generator for 1 hour. So most of the cloud basically works in these three factors, like how much powerful machine you are using, and how many machines that you are using, and how many hours you are running it for the performance testing. So with these three multiple factors, your cost is dependent, and there are different models can be different, but ultimately the cost is dependent on these three factors. So this is one sample cost. Similarly, some other vendors use it this way, that monthly they ask for the payment and they give some kind of credit and we use it. Let's say for this example, when we should go for the performance testing on cloud. Let's say the example, we have to do a performance testing where we need a 1,000 concurrent users run. We need to do only one run for 2 hours. Now, let's say if we need to set up the same lab on in our organization, right? And we need to, the assumption is we need to procure the hardware. So to procuring the hardware, infrastructure cost, electricity, and everything, it will cost around $2,300 for this one run for 2 hours. But let's say if we are using some existing cloud service providers out there, it will cost only $88 with the credit and other stuff they give it. In our case, since we need to do only one run for one client, but we are having multiple client base and they want these kind of things from us. So what we have done is we have seen that, okay, if we set up our own cloud, if we set up our own lab in the cloud, how much it will cost. So when we use Windows machines on the Amazon cloud, it's only $3.27 will cost us for doing a performance testing for 1,000 users, 1 run and 2 hours. And if we use only Linux machine, it costs around $2.16 for us. Let's take an example of the second example where we need to do a load run of 30,000 users, but we need to do only one run and for 2 hours. If you see if we need to set up the lab on the on-premises, the cost is huge. It's around $50K. right? But the same thing if you do it from cloud service providers around 1500K, and the same, and with our lab, what we have set up on Amazon, it's only $110 or $72. But see the opposite one, when it does not make sense to take the performance testing on cloud. Over here, we have to do a performance testing of only 500 users for 2 hours, but we need around 3,000 runs for the complete performance testing. You can think of that we are doing it on a yearly basis, performance run on a regular basis. So if we set up the environment on LAN, right, it's costing around $766. But if you are taking it back to this cloud service provider, it's huge, it's 300K we are talking about. And even if we use our own Amazon EC2 lab and do the load generation from there, if the cost is huge, like 20K or 10K is there. So before we go to the demo, I will just summarize, means when should we do a performance testing from cloud? It depends on 3 factors. First is technology, whether the technology is allowing you to do it or not. That is the first factor. Second factor is cost, how many runs you are doing it and other stuff, and then you take a decision whether it makes sense to take it, the performance testing, and do it from cloud or not. And the third one is like security, whether your application, if you expose it to the internet, whether it makes sense or not, or whether there are some security risks for your organization. So now we'll move to the demo to showcase like how this performance testing lab can be set up on Amazon in a very simple way. And with us, Venki is there, and he will be giving this demo to us.
Hi all. This is Venki, and I will be walking you through how to set up performance lab on a cloud. Here we are taking the services of Amazon, the cloud service provider, and the basic level or seed level of creating a lab is creating an instance. And the first steps, what I like to show to you is like how to create an instance on cloud. This is the Amazon dashboard, and we are having a pre-existing account for this, and this is our what we can say is like Signity dashboard for Amazon. And the key advantage of using cloud services is geographical distribution. Right now you can see on the screen the different regions from where we can generate our load. And right now for a demo purpose, I will be creating an instance with US East, that is North Virginia region, and the same can be followed through every other region. So the first thing will be like launching an instance. I have just selected launch instance, and the next screen shows me the list of available OS level OS that can be used with my instance. And I like to go with the Windows as of the demo.
So you can see over here that there are 2 types of instances are there. On the left hand side there are my AMIs, and the other one is AWS Marketplace. So what Amazon usually provides is like they are provided this ghost image, which they call as AMIs, and then most of the standard configuration that is already there out over there, and we can just select it, and all the softwares with the required configuration settings, you will be as soon as you will use it, it will be ready for you, right? So that is that simple. There are some things what we have done it over here, like we know that at Signity we are using with this pre-defined configurations. So we have made our own ghost images, and we have put that things in my AMIs, and we use it on a frequent basis.
Right now we are trying to create a fresh instance, like a new one. For that, I like to use the Windows 2008 R2 based OS. So I'll be selecting that. And next thing is like selection of your instance type. Instance type, here we are speaking instance. Instance is nothing but creating a machine on cloud. This is a cloud terminology. And these are the, right now we are going ahead with micro instance. This is having very less computing powers, up to 2 ECUs, and the memory associated with this particular instance is 0.613 GB, and instance and network performance is very low. I mean, like the network bandwidth associated with this type of instances will be low. But if in a real load generation model, we don't want to use these such instances, as we need to generate high amounts of code. For this, there are other instance types available in Amazon. There are like M1 small, M1 extra large, and other types where the computing power as well as memory and network performance will be very high, that we have to choose the most suitable one as per our requirement, that is most appropriate with the project context, and we need to go ahead and create the required load generators or controllers in the cloud. And I'll be showing the other settings that will be used here. And this is the most interesting or important one when we are creating an instance. This is the security group level setting, where when we go for a cloud, we most of them, or we heard like these particular cloud-based services are secure, are not much secure, and they are vulnerable. This thing here, when we are this security group is something like where we can define the HTTP level or protocol level settings that can be achieved with high end of security. What I mean to say is, like, if you like to implement some kind of configurational settings so that these particular instances can be accessed or launched through this particular IPs, all these can be added over here. Right now, I'm going ahead with the basic rule, but the more complex level can be something like this. This is one of our sample security groups which we will be using with our lab. You have to add these all rules into your security group and attach that with your instance so that it is more secure. And with demo, we are using this, and I want to launch this particular instance with basic level of security groups. And exit key pair is something like to provide access to the instances for the from a particular machine. Like if a user is creating an instance, this particular key pair option provides the user to access the instance created by him. What we have to do is, like, for a first-time user, you need to create a key pair. Say file 123, and you need to download this key pair. Key pair is something like a .pem file, which you can save at any of your locations. And the next thing will be like launch instances. What happens is, like, when once you click on the launch instance, your instance will be initiated on the cloud, and that will be created. As this being a basic instance, I don't think it will take more than a minute.
So there are 3 steps. If you see, we have done it from a technical parsing. Like, first one is we have selected the host image that is called AMI over in terms of Amazon Cloud. And then after we selected the AMI, we have set up some kind of security settings or some kind of the rules associated with it. And the last one is we have launched an instance. Basically, it means from a cloud aspect that one of the virtual machine is already set up for us, and we can work with that virtual machine. So now you can see that virtual machine which we have created is already ready.
And here we can observe the status, in what status the instance created was present. And the first thing, like, these instances will be associated with a IP, public DNS IP, which you can use it to access these particular missions. As this being a newly created mission, you need a key pair to access that one. The process will be like, you need to get Windows password for this mission. In general, for a newly created key pair associated machines, it takes around 5 to 7 minutes appropriately. So I want to show you, like, how we can do that for one of our previously created machines. You can select you have to select the key pair here and just decrypt the password. This is the password that was given by the particular key pair. You need to copy this or note it down somewhere close it. And the next thing will be like you can access this particular machine from using RDP session. And I like to start right away from by using one of our existing machines where we have set up a load generator or a load generator software, and the software we are using for creation of load is Apache JMeter. This is a open source tool for load generation. And the way of accessing any of the instances that can be done through RDP, and you can set that security. You can set some limitations in your security group such that a particular list of IPs can only be can only access your instance created. This can be used to improvise the security settings of cloud and your lab that is being set up on the cloud.
So once we have set up the instances and we are having our own user ID and password, it's like you are connecting to the remote machine, and then once you are connected to the remote machine, you can see that you can do almost everything whatever you can do with the local remote machine. So over here we have already having the software installed JMeter, and we'll just quickly show that if you need to execute it from JMeter, how it will be.
This is the instance that we have created as we shown in the demo, but this was something an hour back, so that we had some pre-existing softwares loaded into it and some sample scripts so that we can show you through demo. And hope you have worked with JMeter, and I know you understand how to execute a script on using JMeter on cloud. These instances are none other than the instances that are desktop that you will be using at your work location. They are nothing more than that.
So the tool of the choice of tool is not important over here, but the thing is right now we are using JMeter, but in the same fashion, if you are working with NeoLoad or if you are working with Load Runner or any other tools, will perform another stuff. It's like a different remote machine, and you just need to install it over there. You provide your license key and stuff, and you can generate a load from cloud accordingly. So right now we are using JMeter, and we have put 3 iterations, and it will generate a load accordingly the regular way, I will say.
Yes, and if you can see, this will be the way of generating load from cloud using JMeter. But this is, as I said, this is the C level or basic level of creating a lab, and in a real-time scenario, you will nowhere be using a single instances to generate load. For that, we will be using multiple instances, and we will be using controller and generator model. In JMeter, we call that master-slave model. And there are some particular limitation for this.
So far, means what we have shown in this session is the easiest thing from a demo, like how easy it is to set up a performance testing lab in the cloud. Now for a few minutes we will discuss about what kind of challenges we face, because even if you see that okay, it's very easy to set up the things on cloud, but it's not that straightforward also, because once you start working on it, right, you will face multiple challenges, and we'll try to share some of our already faced challenges and what we have done for that. For example, in this case we are having a one standalone JMeter session where we can do a performance testing from cloud, right? But let's say if you want to set up a master-slave model, right? Master-slave model also we can start 3 to 4 instances on the cloud, but the thing is it should be on the same LAN, it should be on the same network. But let's say the requirement is that we need to generate a load from different regions, geographical regions. How we will do it, right? Because setting up the master-slave models, few from Singapore and few from North American region, it's not possible, and that is a challenge we have faced. Definitely we were able to solve this problem from load runner aspect, but in JMeter so far we were not able to do that part. So what we have done is for this testing, we have generated the load from all the standalone machines. Right. So we'll come to some of the challenges which we faced for us. Like for the J meter, definitely when we did it, we could not do it from the multiple regions. So we have set up our standalone machines on different regions and try to generate a load all alone and do the stuff, right? Then the other part was if you are having a master-slave model, right, and we are having a control and agents. The other problem we face, because there is a lot of communication happens between there is a lot of communication happen between control and agents. A lot of communication happens between it. So once we have seen that because of that communication, the controller has come down, right? The reason was because the instance, the selection of instance which we have used, it was large instance, but large instance was not sufficient for that purpose. So when we use an extra large instance, then only it has solved the problem. So we need to be really careful when we are selecting the instance type on the Amazon cloud. Then we have seen issues related to third-party ISP provider, because once the request or the load is being generated from cloud, right, all the ISPs are coming into picture and we don't know, we don't have any kind of control over them. So there are a lot of third-party ISP providers comes into picture, and means if the things are not working out there, then we can't do much, right? We have to live up with it, or we need to do some kind of correlation and find it out, okay, how to generate a load fine, right?
And next thing I like to discuss is security on the cloud. And many says like security is key vulnerability for cloud-based services. But there are advanced options available in the cloud-based services, like creating a VPC where you can set up your own load generators, configure your own router settings. So if you feel confident like your environment setup on-premise is secure, you can do the same with cloud as well. So I can say like security in cloud is not an issue. And next thing what I like to say is I like to explain a real-time challenge. What we faced is like one of our requirement was to generate a load of 40,000 users in less than a minute, say like 30 seconds. But the real issue happened here is like we are using cloud-based load generation services. So actually these services do in a way like once you launch an instance, you launch a load generator, they will initiate the instance on the cloud, assign the users, create the software and run it. So it takes some initial delay that is being induced in our load generation model, that is causing the requirement to fail of creating 40,000 users in less than a minute.
So these are few of the typical challenges that we face while we working with the performance testing lab, and definitely I think now we'll say that we are ready to take the questions and from you guys. So if there are any questions, please.
Yeah. So I think from our end, we believe we've tried to talk about what we wanted to. We wanted to show something that we think we did, and we also spoke about some of the challenges which transcends across security and data recovery, and also some of the real-time experiences that we faced. So we'll be more than glad to take some questions, and we can go from there.
Certainly. I have received a couple of questions. I'm going to assign them to you now, and in the meanwhile I request all the attendees to keep sending more questions for Rahul today. Rahul, please let me know once you view the question on your questions window.
Yeah. So I'll read out the question so that which cloud platform is using this workshop as a practical experiment?
Yeah. So
yeah, that is the question by Rishi Raval. Rahul, we want to answer this.
Yeah. So we are using Amazon EC2 cloud while we gave this demo, and we have done all our performance testing lab setup in Amazon EC2.
Yeah. So okay. So essentially it was Amazon EC2. So let's move on to the next one from Somasundaram Vadivel. How do you think cloud testing can be used in an intranet environment?
So it's a good thing. That's the same thing. If you remember, we discussed like when we should be taking and when we should be talking about doing a cloud testing. When should we do a cloud performance testing from cloud, right? If it is an intranet, then either we need to expose that application to the outside world, or means there will be a limitation that we will not be able to do a performance testing from cloud.
Okay, I hope. Let me take this one. Let me take this question for the benefit of everyone. I'll club this. One is, it's saying that we understand stress testing and recovery testing are related. Would you be able to explain this one using performance tools? Let me also read this from Vasudeva Rao. How can you use the cloud performance testing for telecom networks?
So, as this is a good question, Vasudeva. Means when it's a telecom network, means conducting a performance testing for a telecom kind of projects, it is not a straightforward, right? But in any kind of performance testing, if you see, if we are able to generate a load from the outside world, whether it's a cloud or whether it's a LAN, right? We will be able to do it. But there are not many tools. The problem is there are not many tools present out there in the cloud which can emulate the telecom kind of traffics, because there are tools available like ASIP or the Hammer which can do a performance testing very good from the telecom aspect. But from cloud there are not many tools yet. But if there are tools present out of there and it can generate a load, I think we can do that part from the cloud as well.
Let me from Amit Pandey. Is there a way where we could do such type of testing for client server architecture, same as we do on premise before we move to the cloud?
So the answer is, if your client, like right now, if you talk about client server architecture where the client is a rich client and the communication is happening, whether it's with the WCF call or the REST call or some kind of SOAP call, definitely it is very much possible to do a load generation from cloud. But if the communication is happening on the TCP/IP layer and a very basic TCP networking layers are coming into the picture, it won't make sense to do a performance testing from cloud. One thing what we can do is, if your organization allows, the complete system under test, means client and server both can be set up in the cloud, and then we can do our load generation over there.
Okay. Why does it take so long to troubleshoot issues in the cloud? Is it so? Actually?
Yes.
Ankit Verma.
Yes, Ankit. So definitely the problem is when we are talking about cloud, first of all, there are two things in a cloud. One is we can do a load testing from a cloud vendors like BlazeMeter, right? Where they have set up everything and they give us the interface, and we need to use that interface to do the load generation. The second thing is we set up our own cloud. We set up our own lab into the cloud like Amazon or Google or Microsoft, right? In all the cases, we don't have the complete picture of what is happening, because we are using only the virtual machines. We don't know what is the real hardware, what the problems are happening over there, right? Even let's say if the virtual machine is not coming up, we don't know why it is not coming up. We need to ask this thing to the support team of that cloud provider, and usually the cloud provider support teams take time until you are having a premium support membership over there.
Okay. I think there's one more question here by Ram. Having a private cloud will make this problem of QA will go away. Sure, what is he asking here?
So Ram, if I understand correctly, basically you want to set up your own cloud, right? Whether you want to have your own data centers kind of approach, multiple geographical location, and want to generate the things from there. So definitely, if there is a capability of setting up a cloud like infrastructure, yes, it can be definitely done. But setting up a cloud kind of infrastructure is not an easy job, and someone has to do that part. So if it is a cost effective, it is already there, we can definitely use a private cloud. But if it is not there, it does not make sense until we get a project which demands a very secure application.
Here are some interesting questions. How do we handle the network latency? How do we handle the network latency into consideration while all the load generators in the cloud are in the LAN? Question from Ramanjaneyulu.
So, Ram, this is a good question. So, when we are generating a load from cloud, right, the network latency, basically all the load is happening from the internet. It's not on the LAN, right? And the good thing is all the internet connectivity or the bandwidth associated or pipe between the machine to the outside world is around 300 Mbps line. So if our requirement, if the application does not require that much bandwidth, definitely all the network latency is not an issue until it's application like video streamings and other stuff.
Yeah, before I take one question, let me also update all the viewers. We would very soon also do a webinar on mobile performance testing. So I think we could talk in detail on questions and our experiences there. Thanks for evincing interest on that one. Having said that, let me ask this question from Shashi Kumar. Can we generate load using real browser users? If I have to generate load with 1,000 users, I want 1,000 real browsers to be open.
It's an interesting question. So we have done in past, and it totally depends whether it's a cost-effective solution or not. Like what we have done it before, we have used Selenium grid in the cloud. We have set up the Selenium grid in the cloud, and using that Selenium grid, we have conducted one performance testing project for 500 concurrent users because the demand was we need to use a real browser for simulating those scenarios. So we have done this thing in the past, and then I think the same thing can be done using Selenium or some other project.
Yeah. And regarding the price or costs involved in setting up a private cloud, I think it was actually discussed a little bit detailed in the slides. I'm sure when you go back and view the presentation, you could have some real numbers there, and we could answer that later. So with that, I believe we have also addressed almost all the questions here. Maybe you want to summarize 3 key things that you want users to take away.
So the thing is, this session, if you see, the main purpose was I was seeing keep on happening. Like if you see any article or any magazine nowadays, cloud is like a buzzword that it seems like okay, now the next thing is we need to go to the cloud, right, for doing anything. So that's why we came up with this session and wanted to show that not everything can take to the cloud. So we need to take our due diligence and find it out when we should conduct a performance testing on cloud. And the second thing is we also show that how easy it is to do the load testing from cloud.
Yeah, let's take one last question. Can you set up a DHCP, DNS and AD on the cloud server? If yes, would that be same as that we do on the physical hardware? Also, if we want to we need to assign a static IP on the cloud, how do we do this? It's from Amit Pandey.
So Amit, we have not done this thing our end, but since if you see most of the application setups, like the complex application like Salesforce and other stuff is already in the cloud. So definitely it is possible to have our own DHCP and things like kind of setup over there, but we have now never done in past with us. So we don't have an experience.
Yeah, there's an interesting question. You want to take that? Can I configure Selenium grid with cloud servers to generate load with real browser users? By Shashi Kumar.
Yes, Shashi, we can definitely set up our Selenium grid over the cloud, and we can generate the request from those from that Selenium grid.
Right, and I believe we should take this one because it's on security. If I have a private cloud, what is the security mechanism should be required to implement if we want to move the data from private cloud to public cloud? How do we simulate to test such scenarios? Have any comments? Or was it covered in the presentation?
It is not covered. One second. We have a private cloud. So privacy of that is one thing I guess we have debated a lot. Like if we have to really worried about the data privacy, right? And if we are doing it from the cloud, then definitely that is a limitation. And there are discussion points. Means we can do like we can always mask the data and other stuff like data masking kind of strategy we can always take and bring that data into the cloud if that is possible. But it depends on how much security we are talking about. So if the data is really very secure and we need to, no way we can lose that data, then it is always recommended to have a private cloud or some kind of data center where we should use it for that performance testing. Cloud would not be a good choice for that.
Very nice. I think that was Really insightful from you, Rahul, and we take this opportunity to also appreciate and thank for those insightful questions that have been coming through. We would recommend and request you to really take a look at our website and keep us updated with your observations and questions on this compelling topic. Do follow us on our social networks. Rahul is on the LinkedIn, and his blogs are very informative. We request you to follow them. Any other questions we could take offline, and we would be more than glad to answer them back. With that said, we are done for today. Sri Lagna, over to you.
Thank you so much, Sairam, and thank you so much, Rahul, for taking those questions. And I do see more questions pouring in. We have around 4 minutes left, so if you want, you can take up maybe one or two more questions.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think you could put it on my window. We'll be more than glad to answer. The last one that I'm seeing is the Selenium Grid question. So if you have anything else, yeah.
I just sent you one last question. I think you have covered the rest pretty much.
Okay. How do you take care of environmental issues like bandwidth when it comes to performance testing on the cloud? How can you guarantee yourself a certain bandwidth is available to you for all the time on the cloud, says Vivek G.
So Vivek, this is definitely a very good question. To calculate the bandwidth is one of the challenges we are struggling and we are facing, because we are using many tools and try to find it out how much is the bandwidth availability if we can see. But from the NIC level, NIC level, we can find it out, okay, what is the utilization. But from the internet bandwidth, there is not much out there. But the pipe, what we have seen is the pipe provided by the cloud provider is big enough. And if your application does not demand a very big bandwidth, and means if it is a utilization of 22 or 25%, usually we go for it. If it is more than 50% of the utilization, usually we say that it's a risk, because we don't know what kind of variable we will see during the load generation. And the second thing also, we do it before we do a load testing, we do some kind of a smoke testing, and we figure it out, means what is the response time we are getting it during the load test. We see it, we do a benchmarking against the baseline, and then accordingly we calculate it and do the run. So this is a very good question. We are still finding it out how to calculate the internet bandwidth utilization from cloud to the system under test.
Sure.
That will be all.
Yeah, that should be it. Yeah. Sure.
All right. So I'm sure people might have more questions, and as a norm, please feel free to send your queries to us over the mail, or you can come on techgig.com and post your queries on our discussion forum, where Rahul also can go and post the answers. That's the easiest way. The other way is to get in touch with Rahul over social networking sites, as Sairam already mentioned. So I would like to thank all of you once again for taking time out and giving this presentation today, and we look forward to having similar sessions in the near future. We will have the recording of today's session by tomorrow afternoon on techgig.com. So those of you who missed out a part or probably some of the questions, please feel free to log in and go through the entire session over again. Thank you so much, Rahul. Thank you so much, Sairam.
Sure. Thank you very much. Yeah. Bye.
Bye. Have a good day.